Thanks, Robert. Hello. Good afternoon. Post-lunch slot. Hopefully, everybody's still going to be sharp. I have to say, standing here, looking at you lot, you look fabulous. You look fabulous. How am I looking? Yeah? Come on, strokes, please. I need some strokes. Okay. So, as Robert said, we have got a panel of 5 amazing Animas coaches coming up here today. And they're at varying stages of their journey, and they're probably working with different focus and different specialities. And this is an opportunity for you out there to get involved in a question and answer session and to take the opportunity to tap into their knowledge and their experience about what it took for them to get their business up and running. Okay, so without further ado, I would like to invite the panel up onto the stage, please. We have a big round of applause. Don't be too polite, just sit down. Okay, so some brief introductions. At the far end we have Ross Nichols, old soldier and rookie spiritual warrior. Yeah. So Ross is a business mentor and a coach and specialises in career transition and well-being. Sarah Beilfuss. Now this is one strong lady with a lot of tenacity. This lady spent a year bedridden and then became a competitive bodybuilder. And Sarah is a co-founder of Scarlet Ladies Talk, and she's very passionate about reminding women about their power. We have Matteo Trevisan. Matteo's transitioned from physics through teaching to coaching, and is now works as a corporate leadership trainer, as a coach in schools, and also as a coach with individuals, working around the topics of communication and purpose. We have Ruth Randall, who is a coach who's working mainly with women, on areas around relationships and communication, and also specialises in employee well-being. And last but not least, we have Will Harvey here at the end, who runs a part-time coaching practice at the moment, currently focusing on entrepreneurs, and is a mentor for Virgin Startup. So just initially, there's a few things that came up for me. Actually, no, first of all, I think I'd just like to give these individuals a chance to introduce themselves, maybe just in a couple of minutes to elaborate on those themes, to tell us who you are, where you're at, and what it is that you're focusing on. So if we could start down at the far end with Ross, that would be great.
My journey...
You'll need the microphone, Ross.
Yeah, my journey started in the British Army, actually. I was a combat engineer for 26 years, until 2008. Went through a slowly unfolding crisis. Isn't that a common theme for most coaches? And after I emerged from my black hole period, somebody nudged me and said, you should try business mentoring. Loved it, quickly got up to speed, started my company, and then I had a coaching client. Didn't know it was a coaching client, and then I thought, yeah, this is good stuff. So we'll get some of that as well. Along the way, I trained with Animas. It became about career, health and wellness, group coaching, into the mindfulness, the emotional intelligence. Up next in a few weeks' time is a transpersonal CBD workshop looking into spiritual intelligence. So, yeah, enjoying the journey.
Brilliant, thank you. Sarah.
Hiya, some of you may have seen me on Facebook, you just don't recognise me with clothes on. That's been a recurring theme. I did my training with Animas 4 years ago, I think, and been on quite a journey. I've keep changing my business. It took me quite a while to find what I actually wanted to do. I think passion is something that can be quite tricky. It can hide behind something else. Because sometimes it stares you in the face, but you think, oh, that's a bit uncomfortable, let me go with something else. So when I started out, I was bedridden for a year, and I thought, when I got myself better, I thought, yes, this is the important part, being healthy, reclaiming your health, not giving up. And the not giving up is a really important part. But what I realized over the first 2 years of doing that, I was the burnout and fatigue expert. And eventually I realized the thing that was really important was not that I overcame the bedridden part, but what I was still battling with was what had gotten me to be bedridden to begin with, the trauma I had to live through. And this is now what I really want to work with. This is why I founded Scarlet Ladies Talk, trying to empower women, helping them to never give up and to not, letting other people put them down. And that's why my bodybuilding journey, I was going to do it anyway, and I thought, while I do it, why not, do it for a good cause? So I've done it for a charity, and I'll continue to do it for a charity because I will compete again, called Rosa UK, a charitable fund that funds grassroots projects for women and girls across the UK, and they're amazing what they do. So do feel free to check them out.
Brilliant, thank you, Sarah. Matteo.
Hi. So my journey was a bit odd because I started with physics. I then realized that being alone in a lab by myself, figuring out why the equipment wasn't working for me, as well as the equipment. So I told the equipment, you know what, I think we should end it here. And I started teaching because I wanted to reconnect a little bit with my passion for science, which is very much still there. So if you want to have a nerdy conversation, let's go for it. Then I realized the more I taught, the less I was a physics teacher and the more I was just a teacher. I was there to actually help the kids, not just to relay some information, but really transform their lives. And I realized that what I was teaching wasn't necessarily the best way to do that. Simply by chance, I met somebody who had started a charity that did coaching for young people in prison to help them get back into society. So I realized, this is not just cuckoo magical stuff, it's actually pragmatic, it's actually powerful, it actually works. So I looked into it, I went with Animas, I love the course, I qualified about 6 months ago. And before I had even a single paying client, I decided it was for me, so I resigned from teaching. A bit of a jump. And I said, well, I'm going to be homeless 6 months from now if I don't make this work. So I gave myself no choice. And we were talking about that earlier with Claudia. So I have no choice. It's still not an entirely sustainable business. I'm still eating a little bit into my savings, but it's getting there. I've managed to coach in schools. I'm part of a company that will train teachers in coaching skills. I've somehow managed to become a leadership trainer, training people who are twice my age, which is interesting. Not that I know everything, but you teach what you have to learn. And I'm just excited to where this is going to go.
Brilliant. That's great stuff. Thanks, Matteo. Ruth.
Hello. So as Marcus said, mainly I do work with women, but my main interest is actually looking at how people relate to themselves, because I think like most of us in here, we've all kind of been on our own journey, haven't we? And mine was a lot to do with my own low self-esteem, my own low confidence, and I've kind of gone through that path. And so my fascination is how people relate to themselves and how they relate to other people and how they relate to their world. So that's kind of been my journey. In July this year, I officially left my full-time job, which was mad, but I did it anyway. Still kind of thinking, oh my God, what did I do? But it was the right thing to do, definitely. I'm just really excited to see what comes next. I'm not attached to any kind of real outcome for this. It's just going to be, okay, let's just see what's next and go with it.
Fantastic. We're all going to wait to see what's next for Ruth. Brilliant. Okay, Will, thank you.
Hi, everyone. I've also had a slightly interesting route into coaching. My background is 15 years in senior management in the central London property industry. And I found myself kind of climbing that career ladder, being quite successful, eventually, and quite surprisingly, in charge of large numbers of people, terrifyingly for them and me. I realised that the part of that I enjoyed the most was that kind of nurturing, particularly younger employees, to get the most out of them and working out, particularly when they're unhappy. A lot of the time, entry-level employees can be quite tricky customers. They've just come straight out of school or university. They're not very worldly. And there's a very enjoyable process in kind of helping them to kind of understand what their corners are and knock them off and become their best selves, basically. So I knew that I enjoyed that part of the process, but there was a lot about, or there is still a lot about working within large corporations, which I don't particularly enjoy, namely the fact that you're slogging away for somebody else's dream and vision rather than for your own, even if you are a kind of important part of that machine. So I realised that whilst I was being successful, I was not being successful at the right thing. And I really felt that I was climbing a career ladder, but suddenly realised that I didn't really care about what the ladder was leaning against, and I needed to kind of reassess everything. So I went to see a coach, and she, in 2 hours, made me feel better than I had in my entire adult life, which was kind of like magic to me. And I thought two things at the time. I thought, one, I want to be able to do that, and two, I would have paid you 10 times what I just did for how I feel now and the understanding that you've given me. So I had a very kind of powerful entry into it, and I walked out of there thinking, yeah, I want to be able to do that. So then I found Animas, and now I'm here.
Fantastic. What a journey. Thank you very much. So there were loads of things that resonated with me from our speakers this morning. But the first one, which I loved, was when Nina said, "Bumble your way through it." I thought, that's great. So I'm up here bumbling my way through this, and I will blame Nina if it all goes horribly wrong. The other thing which I thought was particularly lovely from Sonia was when she said, "Lose yourself in the service of others, but get paid properly for doing it." I thought that really struck me. It's a real heart-centered approach, but make sure you're getting paid for the value that you bring. And the other theme that came up for me was taking steps, so that if perhaps a fear comes up or you're uncertain about where you're going, just take a step. Just try it and see what happens. And so on that theme, I'll open up with a question to the panel, which is there one step that you can remember taking particularly which really moved you forward with your business? And I'll start with Ross down the end, if that's all right.
I'd say it's... Yeah, I'd say it's the generic step. Whenever I get stuck, and I get into tears and I think I should do this and I must try that and I need to and I feel obliged and everybody else tells me what to do and I think, right, that's what I should try be doing. Then I think, hang on a second, that's doing mode. I'm not good in doing mode. So let's get into being mode. So just drop all that sense of obligation. Let go of all the shoulds, the tries, the musts, the need tos. And then before I know it, 2 hours have shot by and I've produced the plan and I'm actually implementing the plan. So for me, the magic happens when I let go of all that external stuff and I just be me. And it doesn't matter what it is. If I've just been on a training course, I've just researched something, done a webinar, whatever it is, think, oh, that would be great to do, and I find myself not doing it. Well, the paradox is that I get it done by letting go of the sense of the need to do it. It's all a bit metaphysical, that, but that's the way it is for me. Might not be the right way for you, but that's the way it works for me. Does that help, Marcus?
Yeah, that's brilliant. I mean, I obviously really resonate with that as well. The times that I've made progress have been where I've stopped doing and just be. As I say, it may not work for everybody, but it certainly worked for me. But thanks for that. Has anybody else got something they'd like to contribute? Yeah, Sarah.
For me, what has made the biggest change is being really honest with myself. And one thing I had to admit to myself, and this is going to shock everyone, I hate business. Oh my God, I hate it. It is such a horrible, horrible thing. You have to do marketing and sales and, it's just not for me. But realizing that when I, for Scarlet Ladies Talk, it actually started off as a bit of a joke, two girls having a chat, and we thought, let's do something about this. But as we started working on it, I realized that, this really works because she has got a business hat on and she enjoys the sales and the marketing. So she was doing all the things that I really hated, which left me free to do the stuff that I really like, which is the PR and talking to journalists. And I just got her into a Channel 4 documentary, which will air sometime around Christmas. And this stuff I really like. And it's, also, I felt really, really lonely at home. I was sitting in the darkest corner of my flat, trying to make this business work, and it was absolutely soul-destroying. And having this other person, I've always worked as part of a team. I work well as part of a team. And I just had to realize I don't work that well on my own. And there's nothing wrong with that. But knowing what works for you and then making that happen, I think that has been really important to me. And that's when I made the decision to leave all that burnout and fatigue and just go into this full throttle, because that was just where it was at for me. It was what I was passionate about. It was where I had the support from somebody else. I wasn't in it alone. And it just ticked all of those boxes for me.
So what was coming up for me there is the importance of you getting to know what it was that you loved and maybe redefining business for you, and then collaborating as well, finding somebody you could collaborate with that perhaps brought different skill sets. Absolutely. And enabled you to have that energy between you. Yeah, that's lovely, lovely, yeah. Anybody else want to answer that question?
This is more of a general thing for me, not a sort of specific event, but whenever I find myself stuck, it's always because I am allowing my perfectionistic tendencies to come through. And so in the past, I've wasted an awful lot of time worrying about getting something absolutely right rather than doing anything about it and actually getting a result. So letting go of perfectionism is always the way that I've managed to get myself unstuck from things. Because by not doing anything, you don't have any results that you can then test. You have nothing to actually change. It's all still just thoughts sat in your head. And I'm a planner as well, but unfortunately no amount of planning gets you out of actually having to go and take some action at some stage, which is an important learning for me, I think.
So just how did you let go of perfectionism?
Oh, God. Well, yeah, exactly. How long have you got? I don't know, really. It took me a while to teach myself to do it, I guess. I think a big part of it is sort of letting go of a fixed idea of the outcome, which I've now got better at. So I've become sort of more curious and less fixated on the outcome, I'd say.
Great. That's brilliant. Thanks, Will.
Can I just add to
Of course you
what
can,
Will
yeah.
said there? So anyone that knows me in this room knows I'm really, really stubborn, and I insist on doing everything my own way, and I don't listen to anybody who tells me what to do.
So can you stop there?
I know better. And that's it. That's it. So one thing that I was recognising when I was stuck and recognising when I needed help, and I worked with Ross actually for a while, and I think I remember saying to you, the first sort of coaching session that we had, is that I've realised I need help. I've got to a point I can't do anything else on my own, and I need some help. So that's where I worked with Ross. And also, just to add to what Will was saying, I said this to Hattie over there the other day, 7 out of 10 is my new perfect. And that's one of my biggest learnings, because like you were saying, you can get so caught up in, yeah, but it's not quite perfect, so I won't do it, and I'll just tweak it a bit more, and that's not quite right, and I need to learn a bit more before I do that. 7 out of 10 is your new perfect. Because otherwise, you're going to be always going for that perfect. You're never going to get it, so then you won't be doing anything. So that's my little tip. 7 out of 10, your new perfect.
No, that's very good. And finding, reaching out for help, admitting in yourself that you need some help, and finding somebody to be there and help you through stuff. Yeah, has always worked for me. Yeah, I'll tell you.
For me, there were many, many moments, but one that I remember particularly well was when I was helping the students, and apparently I was being very coachy, because at some point she turns to me and goes, "Are you a coach?" I thought, how the heck, first of all, you're only 15, why do you know what a life coach is and what that's like? And secondly, yeah, I suppose I am. And it's so true that it's a way of being rather than just a methodology. It changes the way you interact with everybody. And that's when I knew, okay, clearly I can do this, and I love doing this. So that was 2 of the circles that, for that 3, now, getting paid for it is the is the next thing. But that's what gave me the courage to be able to say, you know what, I don't need this very safe career that I could easily stay with for the rest of my life. I can now take that leap and really go for it. It took away whatever doubts I had.
Fantastic. That's great stuff. Yes, Sarah.
I talk a lot. Just something that Ruth said, the 7 out of 10 being the new perfect. Obviously, I now have a business partner. For me, that works really well. If you don't have one, I think a lot of us, confidence is a thing, right? Like that can be a massive issue. And we start especially if it's the first business, we've never done it before. How do we know what perfect really is? That's the other thing. And I'm a bit of a perfectionist myself. And I would do something, and no matter how well I do it, it's never good enough. So for me, I now give it to my business partner, and she's like, oh yeah, that's brilliant. Let's put this out. But if you don't have that, ask a friend, ask somebody else, maybe if you have a coach or a mentor, someone who can give you that confidence, that little, yeah, that's good enough. That, you can now put that out. I think that's really helpful.
Yeah, and also that thing about just trying stuff. Actually, what have you got to lose? Because you're going to learn by putting stuff out there, and you'll grow from that. So, and there's just one thing for sure: if you don't ever put it out, you'll never know. So give it a go. Brilliant. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is throw some questions, well, not questions, ask you for questions. Throw it out to the floor. We've got Nathan, who's going to be running around like a mad thing with the microphone. So we have a question here from Olga. Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot. I wanted to ask you, what is your sort of system or process, if you have any in place, for bringing the clients, always having the flow of clients, let's say. So there is a pipeline always, like waiting list.
That famous client sales funnel that people talk about, yeah. Who wants to have a go at that? Has anybody got a...
Shall I let you into the secret, Olga? There isn't one. You've got to build it yourself. We've heard this morning how people stumbled their way to different marketing channels. Some things felt comfortable, some felt uncomfortable. Some things worked, some things didn't. I actually did an analysis on where I got all my clients from. And the channels that work for me is my coach network. I've got, obviously, as coaches, we all network together. So mentoring for startup, mentoring for credentialing. I find clients through the coaching community. Some subscription websites like Life Coach Directory is a good one. There was a business mentoring website that's now no longer, but that was good. Giving talks is good. Doing stuff on social media. I picked up a few clients through LinkedIn. Networking and referrals just through satisfied clients. That's just what works for me. And then there's lots of ones and twos of business that come through all sorts of other channels. Random events, referrals, bizarre conversations and stray emails, and before you know it, you've got a client. But you've got to grow your own pipeline, and it's an expression of you. And being authentic is the secret to growing that pipeline. That's my take on it.
Lovely, being authentic. So is there anything left that Ross hasn't picked up on that anybody else finds works for them?
Yes. I don't have a pipeline either. Let's just put that out there. And in fact, although I look young, my 90-year-old grandfather would probably be better at social media than I am, if only he could see properly. So that's something I've very much steered away from myself. What I found for me is that authenticity has helped me just completely randomly meet people who wanted to refer me to a particular job. It was a practice client that got me into corporate training. A casual conversation that got me into another company. A coach that happened to be at my school that liked me and referred to me to another school to coach there. So my career currently has been entirely a roll of the dice with people who liked me and had the right connections at the right time. And if I wasn't authentic, then I might miss on those chances I didn't even know existed, even when they're right before me.
And what did you need to know in order to be authentic?
Somebody else want to answer?
Because what?
So, well, I think I was mildly. I've never been affected by other people's opinion of me, even as a child. I think it was because the part of my brain that processes social connections didn't really work both ways when I was younger. So, I mean, what was the attitude? I just didn't really give a shit from a very young age. And that has helped me always be who I am most of the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Lovely. Good answer. Thanks for saying. Sarah, did you want to add something? Yeah.
I think because that question is asked a lot, and I think it was somebody asked something very similar after Sonia's talk as well, and I think there's a bit of a danger that we always look for that quick fix, and where do you get all your clients from? And if I just do that, then that'll work. And we just had with Nicola and Sonia, so two people who have started very successful businesses, and they both agreed that there is no, and sorry to all the coaches who market their 7-step formula, there is no such thing. That's my personal opinion. There is no quick fix, and there's no, even for Ross it might work to go on social media. If you hate social media and you go on there once a week, it's not going to work for you. You know, you have to look at who are your clients, where do you find them, what is it that they want from you, and how do you bring that across? And sometimes social media might not be the answer, even though for somebody else they might build a 7-figure business. So at the end of the day, one thing you just can't get around is to make a business work, you have to work hard. That's just the honest truth, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, Ruth, yeah.
So just something I wanted to add about where I get my clients, and I suppose it ties in with that thing that we also hesitate about, which is Carrie mentioned earlier about putting her picture up on her banner. And the thing that's getting me clients is showing up as myself. And sometimes that's the hardest thing to do. I know for me that was really, really difficult, was to just actually put myself out there, because it's your business and it's you that you're marketing. So that can feel really hard, but actually that's what's getting me the clients that I want to work with. I'm showing up as me. I write a blog, I share it on social media, in groups. I network in groups on social media, so I'm not Facebook ads all the time. It's being in groups and actually getting to know the people in the group and them getting to know me. And I network in person as well, so I go to business networking and all those kinds of things. And it's showing up, being myself, being authentic, as people have said already. That's what's bringing me clients, is actually the thing that was hardest to do, that was putting myself out there, but that's what's bringing me the clients.
And so that fear of putting yourself out there, how did you overcome that? What did you have to do to put your picture up?
Just had to get on with it. Really, seriously, I just had to get on with it, because you could spend ages just going, oh, well, you know, self-doubt and all that. Just get over it. Do whatever you need to do to get over it, whether that's working with a coach, have a word with yourself, whatever you need to do to get over it. But get over it, because that's the thing that will make the difference.
Brilliant. That's great. Thanks. Does that help? Yeah? Okay, fantastic. So, is there a follow-up question to that, or another question? Anybody about anything? Yes. Here.
Me again.
Hello.
Would you coach friends, people you know, or is that no way? I don't do it, because I've had people already asking me, "Oh, can you be my coach?" But I know them, but I don't know what the ethics are, because I'm new to this business.
Okay. Who would like to pick that up? Does anybody coach friends?
May I start? So I tried that, big mistake. Now, I still think that I could, but when I tried it, that was after Foundations week number 1. And to be honest, I had no clue what I was doing. So that's how not to approach a close relationship. Now, with more experience, I think I'd be able to create the boundaries that I would need. Yeah, that's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, just something to add to that. Those of you who've been right through your diploma will have done the transaction analysis piece, and you'll be familiar with the drama triangle, in particular the rescuer. And if we offer coaching to family and friends, we could be in danger of being the rescuer. We see somebody who's got a problem, and we offer ourselves as a solution, And if they don't like it, we can become the persecutor. So there's a bit of a thing about the drama triangle to be aware of. But I think in general, I certainly don't look at family and friends as potential clients or practice clients. And so far, occasionally my teenage sons might come and ask me what I think, but I'm more of a mentor than a coach. Different with your wife, you can't tell your wife what to do. So that's a difficult one. But in general, yeah, I think Matteo's right. You just respect the boundaries. If somebody really wants you to coach them, then you contract for it in the normal way. You have a coaching agreement. And as long as you respect those boundaries and you're clear on what they want and what you're offering, then it should be okay. But as a general rule, I don't work with family and friends.
I think the fact that you're still married probably indicates you haven't coached your wife. I tried that. I'm still married, yeah. Sarah.
Personally, I think coaching anyone, I really enjoy coaching because I'm genuinely curious about other people. But I think the better you know someone, the less curious you are because you think you know. And unless you can genuinely forget everything you know about that person for that hour that you're coaching them, and be 100% curious and open without any judgment from anything else that you know, because you can't then draw on, well, hang on a moment, you say that, but I remember last year when you were dating this guy. You can't do that because that would sort of pollute that coaching relationship and what they're willing to bring to that session. So personally, it's something that I stay away from.
Right. Anybody down this end got a view?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I would advise one way or the other, sort of for or against it. However, and I've never sought out clients amongst my friends and family, ever. However, 2 of them have sought out coaching from me, 2 friends. And I did agree to do it. I made them pay me because I think that's an important part of the process. Otherwise, it just becomes, a chat in a flat or in a pub or somewhere. But more importantly, I was very careful to kind of set the parameters for what that relationship would be, and that did work quite well. And actually, one of them turned out to be my most transformative client ever, so I don't think I would say do or don't do it. I think it probably depends a lot on that relationship, a lot on whether or not you're able to set those boundaries, as you said. So I'd never seek them out, but I have been sought out by them, and it's worked well, so it could be either way.
Does that help? So probably be wary, I would say. Probably, but certainly not a complete no-no. I've coached friends before as well, so with mixed results. Yes, we've got a question down here. Come on, Nathan. Chop, chop. Libby.
Just wondering about the length of time that you work with clients and how long you think it takes to be effective, depending on the situation. Not just like how many sessions, but do you do single session? Do you do whole day? What kind of structures do you use?
So how long would you typically work with a client to get to where that client wants to be? Yeah, thanks, Ross.
There isn't really a set answer to that. It all depends. I offer, for example, a structured career transition coaching package, typically 11 or 12 sessions. If people just have 1 or 2 issues that they want to deal with which are quite specific, then they might want 2 or 3 sessions. And it can be anything in between or even longer. It can just become a regular thing. So it really all depends. Does that help you?
But how structured are you around contracting up front on periods of time then?
Yeah, that is crucial. So if it is a formal program, you're taking them on a particular journey through a particular sequence of exercises and steps, then you would obviously contract for that. But if it's just, I've got some stuff going on and I want to explore that, at the end of it, I think as Nina said, okay, we finished a session, would you like another one? And there's no way of knowing how long that's going to go on. Business is different. Typical business mentoring client, 6 to 9 months. It's quite predictable.
Right. Thanks, Ross.
I think it very much depends on what you coach them on. When I took, obviously now Scarlet Ladies Talk is not a coaching business. That's something separate, but when I worked as a burnout and fatigue expert, if I took someone on for health issues, there was a 3-month minimum, and that could go up to a year or longer, just because changing your habits and, you know, helping your body repair itself takes time. That's not something that happens overnight. And I thought about, what do I want out of it in terms of job satisfaction? So I wanted to see them progressing. So that's why the 3-month minimum. But I was also on coachmefree.com, and I offered 2 free sessions through that. But what I did there, I contracted very clearly that if you come to me for only 2 sessions, it's not going to be health related. I don't do that. And you have to come to me with one particular issue, rather than, you know, a big life change, like, something that would have a real massive life impact, because I believe that would take longer. But if they came to me with one particular issue where I thought, yeah, we can work through that within a session or 2, because again, you know, my job satisfaction is important too, and I wanted to make sure that I make the biggest possible impact. So I think it depends what it is you work on.
What it is you work on, who it is you're working with. It's a theme coming up probably here. Ruth.
I'm still figuring out the answer to that. I change it frequently, mainly from feedback that I get from the people that I work with or people I talk to through networking on what they would want. So it's a bit like Sarah was saying, that she wouldn't try and do the transformational coaching in, you know, 1 session, 2 sessions. So I have breakthrough sessions, which I package just as a one-off. It's usually about 2 hours, and they tend to be, so if somebody's got a particular thing that's come up for them, that they just want to brainstorm some ideas or explore one particular thing that we could do in that 1 session, then yeah, they can have a breakthrough session. But if it's something that's actually a bit more life-changing and the deeper coaching, then I wouldn't do that in a 2-hour session, and they would buy a package or a monthly session.
So there's lots of different strands and themes. I'd also say that it's quite important to find out what works for you. It's quite important from my perspective to know what rhythms work for me. Not always doing everything for my client necessarily, but recognizing my own boundaries and what's important for me as well. Okay. So any other questions out there? Come on, you've got the opportunity here to tap in to these guys. Yes.
Have you done a lot of Skype sessions rather than face-to-face, and which one are more effective, or what are did you find that people would open up more or less, or which one would be more effective?
Okay, and there's also phone coaching as well that a lot of people do, so how do you find that?
I've found a mix really good depending on the client. Personally, I really like to coach face-to-face because I like to watch people and see, you know, when they go, oh yeah, I really love my business, it's amazing. You just know, you see from, okay, you say that, your body says something else. So I find that very interesting because it adds that other layer. But I have had clients that I had to coach over the phone. And I prefer phone to Skype actually, because when they know nobody can see them, they almost forget who they talk to, and all of a sudden they open up in a way that they wouldn't otherwise do. And even though you are missing that layer of seeing the body language, but also they don't see me, and I can take as many notes as I want. I don't have to worry about, you know, holding that space and giving them the right eye contact and all of that. It frees me up to listen to these nuances in the voice, and it's quite astonishing how much you can pick up just from listening to their voice.
Any different preferences? Ross?
Yeah, quite agree with what's just been said. I work about 50-50. It varies, you know, in person and over Skype. I remember particularly several clients, particularly women actually, who quite often want the camera turned off when you're on Skype so that I can't see them. And I think the richness of the voice does carry a huge amount, so I absolutely get just voice coaching over, say, a telephone. But it actually, I find it's no different. It doesn't change, it doesn't matter to me whether I'm coaching in person visually over Skype or just using the voice over the phone or on Skype. It's all the same to me.
And do you leave your camera on so your client can see
Yeah,
you?
absolutely. I got nothing to hide. And I want to see them to see the fact that I am responding and I am holding the space for them. I am in contact with them. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'd encourage you to try. Just experiment, try it, see what you feel, see what works for you with your clients.
An added bonus of Skype is that you can record your sessions with permission. And of course, that gives you the evidence you need for your assessments, so, and for your credentialing. So it's a plus.
Okay, I think we've got a question over here. Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
So as coaches, we obviously don't give advice, but I'd quite like to know, on your coaching journey, what's the best piece of advice you've been given?
What's the best piece of
advice you've been given?
You've been given on your journey? Oh,
Yeah, I'll start that one.
He's got a good one.
It's an easy one for me. It came from a book, actually, called... what was it called? Bear with me. Oh, it was called A New Coach by Liz Pace, or The New Coach, something like that. Really, really good book that I read whilst I was just after I'd done Foundations, I think. And there is a line in there which is trust the client and trust the process. And that I still say that now, whatever it is, a couple of hundred sessions in, I still say that all the time to myself, trust the client, trust the process. Because a lot of the times, sometimes you have a session where you don't really feel like you're getting anywhere, or you're a bit of a brick wall, and then the next session you discover they've had this huge change in between sessions. And had I just sort of trusted the process in the first place and not worried about the outcome, then that would have had a huge difference on my stress levels in the previous session. So, yeah, trust the client, trust the process.
Yeah, trust the process. Yeah, and trust your client to experience change between sessions as well. And don't worry quite so much about what you think. Check in with your client. Find out what's happening for them. Yeah. Ruth?
So many. I don't know what
So
to choose.
many.
So many good little
Start
tips
with one.
that I've picked up. I'm going to go for one that's more business-wise, actually, than coaching. And that's it. If it's not in your zone of genius, give it to someone else to do. Because sometimes that's an expense that you maybe don't really want to pay out, but it's so worth it. So I lost 3 days of my life that I'll never get back to trying to sort out complete loss of all my emails and no access to my website. Literally 3 days that stubborn me was going, no, I can sort this out. I know I can do it. Just let me do it. And eventually I found somebody, I posted in a business group on Facebook that I belong to, says, help me. And an expert said, yeah, I can do that. And then he was on the phone and then he sorted it out and it was done. And I just thought, do you know what? I've just wasted 3 days on doing that. So if you don't love it, or if it's really, again, not in your zone of genius, find someone that does love it and get them to do it because it's so worth it.
A bit of outsourcing. Find somebody who is good at it, and it saves you a lot of time. I think that's really lovely. Thanks, Ruth.
So, in keeping with the coachiness, mine is not actually a piece of advice. It was a question. And it was a question that... Where's Nathan? Where'd he go? Nathan actually asked me this question at the end of our chat, and he said, how do you incorporate even more fearlessness in the way you do your business? I had called my company Fearless Future, and so how did I incorporate even more fearlessness in what I did? And that was a very good reminder of you know what you are to some extent. How can you be even more of what you are already? I thought that was a nice thing. So thank you, Nate.
Yeah, brilliant, lovely. Sarah?
Best advice. I think what has had the biggest impact on me was a book that I read. Yet another book. I remember the title.
Can you remember it? Yeah.
I'm not sure I should say it though. All right, this is quoting, so this is not me swearing because Nick never likes when I swear because I do that a lot. The book is called Fuck It, and it's all about living the fuck it lifestyle. And I think learning to not give a fuck anymore was the most important thing for me. In that book, there's some. It's just the way it's written, you know, where it just resonated. Where I thought, oh yeah, I know that feeling where I really care about what other people think, when really, because everyone is on a different journey, it really doesn't matter what other people think because it's really not relevant. And that for me has been the biggest thing, really.
So what was the first thing you said fuck it to when you read that book?
Well, when I was told, while I was bedridden, I was told I would never get better. I thought, fuck it, and fuck you for saying it. And
Brilliant, thank you.
and now I'm a competitive bodybuilder, so you never know, right?
Brilliant.
Follow that, yeah. Well, a bit like some of the others, I can't think of any one thing. I can think of several books, but I think perhaps the one, maybe more of an insight than anything else, and again, it's in the form of a question, which came to me to help me with coaching. I took this from a book. It was a very experienced coach talking about her learning journey and how she helped other coaches to become better coaches. It's a very simple question in the form of feedback when things weren't going quite right in an observed coaching session. And she would ask the trainee coach, are you listening to understand or are you listening to respond? And that kind of absolutely nails the essence of coaching for me.
Very good. Lovely. Yeah, so in conversation, we tend to just listen to respond, and it becomes about us. But listening, what did you say? Listening to understand. Yeah, stay curious. Lovely. That's great. Does that help? Yeah? Good. Okay, another question. Yeah? Hello.
I'm sure some of us will share some challenges here in this room. So I'm wondering if you could think about your biggest challenge so far, what that has been, and things that you have done to overcome it.
Your biggest challenge.
I'm going to get straight to the elephant in the room, money. I've been in business for 3 years, and money is still not coming in a way that it sustains me. So when you start a business, there are people that are lucky that make money within the first year, but I started my business after I lost my job because I was too ill to work. So I didn't have another income, and you need to be very clear about, it is a rocky road. You won't have money like you used to. It's not going to start rolling in overnight. And having sort of things in place, and also, I'm a stubborn cow. I am. I don't give up very easily. So while every friend I have, my entire family, everyone says, Sarah, maybe you want to get a job. Similar to Sonia's little voice, get a job. I'm like, I'm going to do this. And if you want to make it work, I think you really need to have that drive to not give up. I define failure different to many other people. To me, failure is when you give up before you succeeded. You don't just fail, you just gave up before you succeeded. And it's that, having that stubbornness, bravery, insanity, to just keep going when everybody else says you can't sustain this, because eventually it's going to happen. I've been on that brink for a while, but any day now, any day.
Lovely, brilliant. There's that tenacity coming through. Yes. Ruth.
Thank you. So very similar to what Sarah was saying. I started this journey with very little. I think that's why I'm up here. I think I'm the proof that you can do it, starting with literally nothing. I didn't have the corporate background. I didn't have a fantastic network of people. I live in an area where people don't even know what life coaching is most of the time. And certainly it's an area where people's social circumstances aren't that good, so it wasn't a rich market for clients particularly. And I started with very little budget behind me. I paid the Animas diploma by instalments because it's the only way that I could have done it. But by just consistently taking action, by doing something all the time, just moving forward, pushing yourself that little bit more and not giving up, as Sarah says, just keep going, you will get there. But yeah, I've overcome lots of challenges, and one of the biggest ones was probably myself. But you have to keep going, and when it gets tough, just remember why you're doing this. The thought of going back to my job now horrifies me. I just couldn't. I'm not very good at being told what to do. So I just couldn't do it. And that's what keeps me going. And the fact that we know that by doing what we're doing here, we can make a difference to people. And that's important. And the life that you want is important. So when it gets tough, remember your reason why. and you will overcome whatever challenges you face.
Oh, I love it. I love that passion. That's great. This is brilliant stuff. Will?
I think similar to Ruth, actually, my biggest challenge has been getting out of my own way. I spend a lot of time in my own way, it seems. And the transition that I'm making is from 15 years of sort of deeply entrenched corporate system, where I'm surrounded by enormous teams that take care of things like, marketing and IT and HR and all the rest of it. And I'm going from that to a one-man business where I have to create that structure for myself. Not that I need a huge HR team just yet, but you know what I mean. That's been the biggest challenge for me, and it's amazing how deeply you can become entrenched in the things that you believe to be true about yourself. I did the Launchpad, which used to be called the Coach Success Program, with Nick and some other people here. And one of my biggest problems has been my own sort of self-belief and self-worth in what I'm selling and how much it's worth. And the Launchpad for me was more about me than about business, because I've got lots of business experience. Business doesn't scare me, and I'm fine with all that kind of thing. And I now advise people on it. But my problem was me and my sort of self-worth and self-belief. And I was so deeply entrenched in these views about what I was worth and what I was able to give and all the rest of it, and the kind of journey that I thought I would have to go on to get there. And in the first or second Launchpad session that we had, we did a bit of 360 feedback around the room, and I got overwhelmingly kind of positive feedback. And then at the end of it, Nick said to me, "You're going to be the next Michael Sower, just get out of your own way." And I just burst into tears, obviously, because that's what I do. So I burst into tears and had a little sob, and then left the room and sobbed some more. And then came back and then realised that actually it's so true. Like the things that you believe about yourself. And obviously, I'm saying this to a room full of coaches. Go and get a coach, you say. But it's absolutely true. And so getting out of your own way for me is absolutely the most important thing in the world. Make no assumptions about anything, and allow. Listen to what other people tell you about you and believe that instead, rather than the stuff you've made up for yourself.
And so at that point in time, what was the hardest thing for you to do?
I think probably the hardest thing was I definitely had a bit of a block around how much money I could charge, so I immediately doubled what I was charging. Interestingly, I think I now charge a reasonable amount, but I was just talking to Nina earlier today, and she asked me what I was charging, and she said, "You are kidding. Double it." So I'm going to double it again. None of you can afford me.
Brilliant. If in doubt, double it. That's great. Yeah. Matteo, have you got something? No? Sarah?
Me again. Just something that you said there. I think as a society, we raise people to not pick themselves up, and I think that's something that not just in business for the sake of for your clients, so they see what value you bring, but even for yourself, to have that confidence. Get used to big yourself up and admit to yourself that actually I'm really good at this. And I've had a client and I asked her, "What are you really good at?" And it took her such a long time to come up with anything, and she immediately put that down again with, "Oh yeah, I suppose I draw really nicely, but then it's not like it would ever." Immediately put that down, and I think that's something that most of us have a tendency to do, and just stop doing that.
Just stop it.
Just stop it.
Yeah,
It's
stop
really,
it, people.
Because you're not doing anyone any favors, and just so that nobody else thinks that you're big-headed, fuck him.
That's becoming the theme, isn't it? Fuck it.
So actually, I'm glad you finished with that point, because I thought if I say this now, I'm gonna look like an ass. But no, after that, it makes it fine.
Just do it.
So, thank you. So far, my challenge hasn't been so much bigging myself up. It has been looking like I can follow up with my words. As you've noticed, I can't grow a beard as well as you might, or you might. And when I'm trying to sell my coaching service to people who have undoubtedly 20, 30 years more experienced than me in a business in particular, it is somewhat difficult to prove to them on the spot that somebody that looks as young as you can actually have such a big impact on their life. So the biggest challenge for me has been becoming convincing enough and finding a way to have very powerful, quick impact in deep conversations with people that really shows them there's more to you than what you look like.
Brilliant, brilliant. That's fantastic. So we've got, yeah, excellent. We've got time for one more quick question at the back. Well, I know. It's so disappointing, isn't it? He looks so fit.
You've talked quite a lot about it already. I'm just interested in your approach to your brands, what journey you went through to make a decision about what you call yourselves. You know, did you get business cards? You know, do you have websites? You know, all of those types of things, very practical things. And you've talked a lot about authenticity. So how is it linked to that for you as well?
That's
So
a great question.
It sounds practical, doesn't it? But actually there's a lot of stuff that can go on underneath that about who you are and knowing yourself.
It's a great question, and we all struggle with this. And the truth is, we're too close to ourselves to actually see our own value. So my top tip here would be, get with somebody else, get a buddy, and just tell them what you do, and say, okay, now you tell me back, what is it that I'm really offering you? And my experience around this is I went to a business training course for a few days, and we had little one-to-ones with various experts, and I got with a marketing expert. He said, just tell me what you do. So I gave him my long elevator pitch, and he said, that's not what you do at all. I said, okay, what do I do? He said, you're the transition transformer. And I leapt out of my chair and punched the air. I said, yes, that's it. And I've got a business card in my pocket which says transition transformers. I've had a legal challenge on it, and I've trademarked it now, and that's mine. So that's branding. And I've been with other coaches on various events, and they've been telling me the same thing. What do you do? What do you do? I remember one woman who came along, and we were getting warm. I said, oh, keep telling me more, tell me more, tell me more. And all of a sudden I said, I've got something coming up. Can I share it with you? She said, yeah. And I said it, and she jumped in the air and punched the air and said, that's it. So get with a buddy, tell them what you do, and then get them to play it back to you when they really feel it, and that's your brand.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Thanks. Does anybody else? Just one. We've got time for one more. Yeah.
Yeah, just quickly, the thing that I would say is that this goes back to something Ruth said, actually, which is don't try and do something that you don't know how to do when you can pay someone to do it for you. And I think there's two sort of parts to the brand thing, and one is working out what the actual message is and being able to tell people what it is you do, and that's the important bit that only you can do. And I spent a while within Launchpad, about 6 months actually, kind of trying to work out what that was, and it became this sort of branding line, if you like, which is live powerfully, which is got a bit more of a backstory behind it, but that's the kind of thing. And whilst I've not had to do much marketing up to this point, thankfully, because I've had lots of referrals and so on, I'm now at the stage where I am getting a website built and all the rest of it, and I'm not even wasting any time trying to design what that will look like or how to get that across, because that's for somebody else who knows what they're doing. So this is my message. This is how I want you to convey it. You do the rest.
Fantastic. Thank you. That's great. Right, I'm just going to wrap this section up now by asking very quickly, very quick responses. If there was one key takeaway or piece of advice you could give to the coaches in the room today, what would it be? I'm going to start here at this end because the microphone is here.
I would say be patient and trust that it will work out in the end.
Be patient. Lovely. Thanks. Ruth. Pass it on then.
Never stop hustling. Always work at it. Never get complacent. Even when you think you've got it in the bag, something might happen.
That's enough. Pass on.
Similar, keep on trying and don't give up.
Very similar. Just start, follow the energy, and trust yourself.
Lovely. And Ruth, do you have one?
Go on, I've got one now.
Okay.
If it works, do more of it. If it doesn't work, just stop doing it.
Hey, let it go. Lovely. A big round of applause, please, for our panel. Well done. Thanks, guys. You're released officially.